recommend for you to use the side-by-side with speaker video option and kindly use the chat function for your questions and comments. All right, so a lot of people are entering the breakout session room. So let's just wait a bit. And hopefully everybody will get to rename your selves again. Again, the format is institution bar name. Again, welcome. Welcome back to our participants. We hope you learned a lot from the keynote lectures earlier. And just a few reminders for those who have entered the parallel session room. Please be reminded that this session is being recorded. Please be mindful of your microphones and video cameras throughout the program. And we recommend for you to use the side-by-side with speaker video option and kindly use the chat function for your questions and comments. All right. So for those who haven't renamed themselves, kindly rename your name here on the Zoom session room to institution bar name. Again, it's institution space bar space your name. Thank you. All right. I can see that the others have already changed their names already. For the others, we request that you do the same. All right. Okay, so welcome again to Parallel Session 2. So we would just like to remind you that this session is specifically for cities as a pedagogical space. All right. So thank you for choosing this room. It's a very interesting afternoon for all of us because there are a lot of presentations. We have a total of 9 presentations for this particular session. A lot of things to learn from different people all over the world. And we hope we get to learn and actually apply the things that we get to exchange from this particular session. So we have all right. So we should start now with our first presentation. Wait. So we still have welcome remarks happening right now at the plenary session. So it's by our Vice President for Higher Education, Dr. Maria Luz C. Vilches of Ateneo de Manila University. So for those who have just entered the room, kindly rename your name here on the Zoom room with institution, space, bar, space, name. And then, all right, while you're renaming, here's the welcome remarks from Director Vilches.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ateneo de Manila University, and welcome to the AUN-EEC conference. EEC meaning Ecological Education and Culture. And this conference is jointly organized by the Ateneo Institute of Sustainability and the Sustainable City and Urban Development of the Universitas Indonesia. I like the theme of the conference, rewilding the city. I think when we look at the city, when we think of a city, it's always a paradise for a lot of people who don't live in the city. It's always a dream to live in the city, but in this increasing number of issues that relate to climate change, the city doesn't seem to be a palatable idea anymore to a whole lot of people. It's wild in itself, but wild in a negative sense, because especially here in the Philippines, when you go through EDSA, that huge highway there, and then you cannot get through the thicket of traffic and the pollution, you feel as if, oh my goodness, how wild this is. But that's not the kind of rewilding that you intend to do. So I'm very taken by that, because it reverses the idea of wild in negative sense to make it wild in the positive sense. And I hope that your exchange of ideas will be fruitful, will be engaging, and I'm very much looking forward to proposals on how to rewild the city. We need that before it's too late. So I wish you all the best in your exchange of ideas, and I hope that we can combat this kind of difficulty in our environment, so that we can progress in our taking care of our common home. All the very best to you. Enjoy the conference, enjoy the friendships, and enjoy Ateneo de Manila and all the people that are going to receive you here for this kind of experience. Enjoy the adventure. I'd like to thank Eman De Locado and all the members of his team and all the other members of the team of Universitas Indonesia for putting together this lovely conference with an enticing theme. All the very best, and ad maiorem Dei gloriam, as we say it here in Ateneo de Manila, all for the glory of God. Take good care.
There. Thank you to the Director Vilches for that very wonderful message. Actually, it's the theme of this conference is really interesting, and I do agree that yeah, it's not about the kind of the wild the wild traffic that we're experiencing, but actually going back to how nature is really like. All right, and we get to we hope that you also get to experience friendships here, start friendships in this session, and hopefully make a bigger difference outside this parallel session room. All right, so let's get the ball rolling. We have our first presenter. The title of his paper is Laudate Deum, a framework for environmental stewardship and social justice in the Philippines and Southeast Asia. So this research article examines the significance of Pope Francis's apostolic exhortation Laudate Deum in addressing environmental and social challenges, particularly in the context of the Philippines and Southeast Asia. Drawing upon the principles outlined in Laudate Deum and the broader teachings of the Catholic Church, the study explores the intersections between environmental stewardship, social justice, and faith-based perspectives. The research explores the multifaceted environmental challenges faced by the Philippines and Southeast Asia, including climate change, deforestation, pollution, and their socioeconomic implication. It examines the significance of Laudate Deum in advocating for responsible environmental stewardship, promoting social justice, and fostering multilateral cooperation. Through case studies and examples, the article highlights initiatives and movements inspired by Laudate Deum assesses their impact on policymaking and civil society, and identifies opportunities for collaboration and partnerships. Furthermore, the study discusses the challenges hindering the implementation of Laudate Deum principles and provides recommendations for future action and research. This research underscores the importance of integrating faith-based perspectives with environmental and social efforts to achieve sustainability and justice. So, let's welcome Mr. Antonio Levy S. Ingles Jr. from the School of Multidisciplinary Studies, De La Salle College of St. Benilde.
Hi everyone. I'm Dr. Antonio Ingles Jr., and today I'll be discussing how Pope Francis's apostolic exhortation Laudate Deum functions as a framework for addressing environmental stewardship and social justice in the Philippines and Southeast Asia. This framework provides a guiding set of principles and actions to tackle the pressing environmental and social issues in these regions. How familiar are you with Laudate Deum and its core messages? A framework is essentially a structured approach that helps in organizing and addressing complex issues. It provides a set of principles and guidelines to inform decision-making and actions. In this presentation, Laudate Deum serves as a framework by offering foundational principles for addressing environmental and social challenges. Can you think of any frameworks you've encountered that help guide actions in your field? Laudate Deum presents three essential principles: the urgent need for immediate and decisive action to address environmental crises, the collective responsibility to protect our planet, and the moral imperative to advance social justice. These principles offer a solid ethical foundation for tackling environmental and social challenges, urging us to collaborate in promoting sustainability and ensuring a fair and equitable future for all. Which of these principles do you think is the most challenging to implement and why? Urgent global action is needed to address the escalating environmental crisis. By prioritizing sustainability and embracing collective responsibility, we can protect the Earth for future generations. It's our moral duty as stewards of the planet to act now, ensuring a brighter future for all. Laudate Deum outlines a framework with three principles: immediate action for swift measures to tackle environmental crises, collective responsibility highlighting our shared duty to protect the planet, and social justice linking environmental stewardship with fairness and equity for vulnerable communities. These principles urge collaboration for sustainability and a fair future. The Laudate Deum framework, presented in the table format, consists of three essential principles to address environmental and social challenges. Immediate action emphasizes the need for swift measures to tackle environmental crises, involving rapid response strategies and quick remediation policies. Collective responsibility highlights our shared duty to protect the planet for both current and future generations, calling for cross-community and international collaboration and global agreements. Social justice focuses on ensuring fairness and equity, particularly for vulnerable groups, through inclusive policies and equitable resource access. Sustainable practices functions as a process or outcome within the framework, integrating the principles of immediate action, collective responsibility, and social justice. It represents the ongoing application and evaluation of these principles to ensure long-term effectiveness and sustainability. Together, these elements guide our approach to fostering a sustainable and just future. In the Philippines, Laudate Deum offers a framework for addressing specific environmental issues such as climate change, deforestation, and pollution. It guides local policies and initiatives by emphasizing sustainable practices and ethical responsibility towards the environment and affected communities. What local environmental issue do you think should be prioritized based on these principles? Table 2, Environmental Issues in the Philippines. This table offers a brief overview of key environmental challenges in the Philippines, including climate change, deforestation, and pollution. Each issue is briefly described, highlighting causes and consequences. Central to the concept of Laudate Deum is the importance of environmental stewardship and social justice. It calls upon us to recognize our ethical responsibility to preserve and protect God's creation through sustainable development and conservation efforts. Additionally, Laudate Deum places a strong emphasis on promoting social justice and equity, ensuring that no community is left behind in our pursuit of a sustainable future. Successful initiatives such as mangrove reforestation in Palawan, community-based waste management in Davao City, and renewable energy projects in Batangas exemplify the application of Laudate Deum's principles. These projects highlight practical examples of integrating environmental stewardship and social justice into local practices. Which of these initiatives do you find most inspiring and why? Table 3. Environmental Initiatives in the Philippines. This table highlights successful environmental initiatives across the Philippines, such as mangrove reforestation in Palawan, community-based waste management in Davao City, and renewable energy projects in Batangas. These examples not only showcase local efforts to tackle environmental challenges but also demonstrate the practical application of the principles from Laudate Deum by Pope Francis, which emphasize environmental stewardship and social justice. The initiatives reflect how these principles were being integrated into local practices even before the official release of the encyclical, illustrating their relevance and impact. Table 4. Social Justice Movements in the Philippines. This table presents successful social justice movements in the Philippines, including farmers' rights advocacy in Negros Occidental, indigenous peoples' rights protection in Mindanao, and urban poor housing rights movement in Metro Manila. These movements mobilized communities, raised awareness, and influenced policy changes to address inequality and promote equitable development. For Southeast Asia, Laudate Deum helps in promoting regional cooperation, respecting cultural differences, and balancing development with environmental and social responsibilities. This framework supports collaborative efforts and context-sensitive strategies to address the diverse challenges faced by the region. How do you think regional cooperation can be enhanced to address these challenges effectively? Table 5. In Southeast Asia, several notable environmental initiatives align with the principles of Laudate Deum. In central Kalimantan, Indonesia, the Kalimantan Forest Conservation Project, led by WALI and the Kalimantan Forest Conservation Alliance since 2016, focuses on reforestation, forest patrols, and community engagement to protect and restore critical tropical forests. In Thailand, sustainable fishing practices have been implemented since 2015 in the Andaman Sea and Gulf of Thailand, with efforts from the Thai Department of Fisheries, Marine Conservation Group, and Thai Fisheries Association aimed at protecting marine ecosystems through community-managed reserves, regulated quotas, and eco-friendly techniques. Meanwhile, Malaysia's clean energy projects, which began in 2018, involve the Malaysian Solar Industry Association, Sarawak Energy Berhad, and the Penang state government, and focus on reducing fossil fuel dependence and greenhouse gas emissions through solar and biogas plants in Sabah, Penang, and Sarawak. These initiatives collectively reflect Laudate Deum's commitment to environmental stewardship and sustainable development. Table 6. In Southeast Asia, various social justice movements embody the principles of Laudate Deum. In Singapore, since 2009, the Movement for the Rights of Migrant Workers, led by Transient Workers Count 2, TWC2, and the Singapore Migrant Workers Center, advocates for fair wages, improved living conditions, and legal reforms to enhance the well-being of marginalized workers. In Vietnam, gender equality advocacy has been ongoing since 2010 through initiatives by the Vietnam Women's Union, UN Women Vietnam, and the Vietnamese Women's Rights Network, focusing on legal reforms, public awareness, and increased representation for women, aligning with the principle of promoting social justice and equal opportunities. In Cambodia, since 2012, land rights campaigns led by Lai Kat Ho and the Community Legal Education Center, CLEC, addressed land grabbing and secure land tenure for affected communities through legal advocacy, community mobilization, and policy reform, reflecting Laudate Deum's commitment to protecting vulnerable populations from exploitation and injustice. Embracing the principles of Laudate Deum is not merely an option but a moral imperative in our world, where urgent challenges like environmental degradation and social injustice prevail. To effectively address these issues, It is essential to adopt a mindset of environmental stewardship and social justice, incorporating these principles into both policies and daily actions. This collective shift can drive meaningful change towards a more sustainable and just future. Table 7, Faith-Based Perspectives Overview. This table summarizes key aspects of faith-based perspectives on environmental stewardship and social justice. It highlights fundamental principles within religious traditions, including the moral imperative to protect nature, stewardship responsibility, recognition of interconnectedness, and the call for social justice. Understanding and integrating these perspectives can enhance discussions and initiatives addressing environmental issues ethically and comprehensively. In conclusion, Laudate Deum provides a valuable framework for combining faith-based perspectives with practical approaches to environmental and social issues. By applying these principles, we can work towards a more sustainable and just future. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. How do you see faith-based perspectives influencing the effectiveness of environmental and social initiatives?
There. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation, Dr. Um, Inglet. So I personally actually have a question because I'm actually teaching Laudato Si in my class. So shout out to my students here who have attended the parallel session. So because Laudato Si has been the more commonly used term, especially for the faith-based perspective on environmental stewardship. So how does it differ with Laudate Deum? How is it similar or how is it different with each other?
Okay, this is just a follow through or follow up of Laudato Si way back in 2015. And I believe that, of course, this is not an encyclical as compared to Laudato Si. This is simply a apostolic exhortation by Pope Francis last year. That was October 4, 2023. So the whole idea here is because there is an urgency that seemingly Laudato Si has not reached so much in terms of its implementation. That is why I believe Pope Francis has to come up with follow-up so that they could really see to it the urgency that Laudato Si is trying to tell. So it's not something different from Laudato Si. It's just simply a reminder or a a call to all of us that let's go back to Laudato Si, and we cannot just simply ignore the urgency that we should address the issue on, environmental crises and in relation to social injustices.
All right. Thank you, Doc. Can you increase the volume just for the next question? So we also have, aside from that question that I have, thank you for responding. Are there other questions that the other participants wanted to ask? So it is more of it's more of a follow through. So the Laudato Deum is actually a follow through to the Laudato Si. For more urgency for that the Laudato Si did not meet, and it's not so different. It's just a reminder or a wake up call. All right, so that's the main not really a difference, but just highlighting what the Laudate Deum is. So are there other questions or like wanted to confirm so that we can proceed to the next presentation? All right. Can we proceed now to the next one? So I guess since we have no more questions, thank you again, um, Dr. Ingles, for that presentation and for that answer. So we have our next presentation, which is titled Developing Students' Environmental Citizenship Through Youth for Environment in Schools Organization, or YES-O. So this will be presented by Mark Venner C. Del Carmen, of Philippine Normal University. So you have 10 minutes for the presentation and then 5 minutes for the question and answer. Take it away, sir.
Let me share my screen. Please wait. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm Mark Vinercidal Carmen from Faculty of Science, Technology, and Mathematics of Philippine Normal University, and I'll be sharing the study Developing Students' Environmental Citizenship through Youth for Environment in Schools Organization. So recently, this past July, the Philippines is hit by a super typhoon named Karina, and somehow it caused heavy flooding around Metro Manila. So if someone asks you what caused the heavy flooding during Typhoon Karina, how will you respond? Maybe we can have the comment section to quickly try to respond. If someone asks you what do you think is the main reason why does this heavy flooding occurred, what will be your answer? At least try to make something in your minds. Okay, I'll proceed. But another question would be, how do you think our students will produce a response to this question? So we know that our youth is somehow very engaged in the social media and oftentimes being affected by different ideas, statements, and claims present there. But somehow it's also interesting to know how they will really come up with their own definition of answers. What are the main cause of this heavy flooding happening? Okay, so with that, maybe it's a time when it's our part of our responsibility, to develop our youth to help us solve the problems we have in our environment. So we can a comment section. We have answers here: no urban planning, no forest, corruption, and mostly the garbage clogging the drainages. So the question is, does our students think the same, or do they have a valid reasoning? Somehow to ensure that does that happen, we need to take action and somehow be more purposive in teaching them such. In the Philippines, one opportunity to teach the students regarding this matter is the Youth for Environment in School organization, which is the only recognized co-curricular organization in public school in the Philippines by virtue of DepEd Order 72 Series of 2003. It means that all public schools have this organization that somehow has the general goal of increasing the level of awareness of students in the school community in various environmental and ecological issues. So the main goal of this study is to assess the environmental citizenship of student leaders developed from Youth for Environment in Schools organization in a public high school in Dasmariñas City, Cavite. So particularly, it aims to assess environmental citizenship of YesO student leaders, describe how joining YesO helps students develop their environmental citizenship, and deduce strengths and point for improvements of YesO program design. But with the limited time, I'll be only sharing the first result of the first two bullets. Okay, so a quick overview of the study. The study utilized a purposive sampling in which there are 43 respondents in which the primary criteria is being a member of YesO for 2 years and already graduated in the school by the time of the study. The data gathering techniques implemented first is a self-assessment questionnaire entitled Students' Environmental Citizenship Instrument, which is a 5-point Likert scale adapted from the study of Olsen et al. In 2020. Another method is the focus group discussion conducted to chosen students from the 43 students. Data analysis implemented is mean standard deviation and thematic analysis. To give us a more idea about the self-assessment questionnaire conducted, it follows the concept of environmental citizenship by Berkowitz et al. In 2005, in which the main component of environmental citizenship are the following. First, ecological literacy, which is defined as the understanding the key ecological system using sound ecological thinking, while also understanding the nature of ecological science and its interface with society. Next, civics literacy, which is defined as understanding the key social, economic, cultural, and political systems using the requisite critical thinking skills. Next, self-efficacy, having the capacity to learn and act with respect to personal values and interest in the environment. The fourth one is values awareness, awareness of personal values with respect to the environment, and ability to connect these values with knowledge. And lastly, practical wisdom, which is about possessing practical wisdom and skills for decision making and acting with respect to the environment. So somehow the idea is that these components of environmental citizenship can be developed through various activities implemented by YESO. So I'll be sharing some of the activities conducted by the YESO of the participating school. So the CIH's YESO activities includes first waste segregation implementation, in which the students, the YESO members are the main leader in implementing waste segregation. So they inform other students and other members of the school community, as well as do important process of the waste segregation, like as maintaining the compost pit and organizing the materials in the materials recovery facility. And next, they also implement a monthly community cleanup drive in which the ESO members lead different assigned classes every month to clean to the surrounding subdivisions of the school. More activities, we have here a monthly students environmental symposium in which the students lead this environmental symposium in which they invite guest speakers as well as be the speaker of various topics they have assigned for each month. Oftentimes, they associate it with existing celebration present in the month as listed in the table. Next, they also celebrate National Science and Technology Week, in which they include their different ecological activities led by IESO. Some examples are 90-second science video blog competition, in which they made this competition on where students in the school community will create a blog to describe the scenario regarding environmental issues in their home or in their community. Next, Siyensya Balagtasan, in which they tackle a different social-scientific issue through the two members of the Balagtasan, or the two sides no, that we have in the Balagtasan. They also have environmental poster haiku, essay writing contest, and clean up challenge photo contest. So here are some example of the picture as they lead these activities. Next, similar to many of the YESO in public schools, they also have the science camp as well as the Mr. and Miss Earth in which recycled ware are being highlighted. And one of their innovation is the conducting of a big book storytelling in which the members of the organization create their own short story with a moral related to taking care of our environment or tackling different environmental issues. So they made it into the different versions. They have digital copies, and they also have actual physical big book, and they go to nearby elementary schools to teach elementary pupils. And lastly, they also have apparel making contests uh, to promote recycling. So through these activities, here is the result of the environmental citizenship assessment. We can see here that the average
Have 2 minutes left.
citizenship of the students, it can be interpreted as responsive citizenship, which range from 4.0 to 4.4. But somehow, looking at the standard deviation, we have a quite big standard deviation, meaning that we need to further look into the data that we have. Looking further, we can see here the distribution of a level of citizenship of the participating students for different aspects. We can see here that in overall level of citizenship, 34 out of the 43 participants is either responsive citizenship or proactive citizenship, meaning that the ESO is somehow can be really effective in developing environmental citizenship to students. Moreover, the aspect with the highest level number of proactive citizenship is on civics literacy and values awareness. So with that, we can substantiate that data from the responses of the students in the FGD, in which they give emphasis on the importance of doing different activities like immersing themselves on cleaning of the community, in which they further realize that there's really a lot of trust present in the community, and also highlighting how the yes will help them develop their priorities and principles in terms of political, social, and environmental spectrum. Moreover, the students also give emphasis how YESO help them to gain strong and firm values regarding the environment, and how they feel confident as different community members appreciate their efforts. So with that, we can conclude that the environmental citizenship can be developed through YESO, and somehow at an early age, no, in high school, this can be effective. And the main modality can be the authentic experiences being conducted, and calling us, no, for giving our students more opportunity to plan and implement solution. With my last slide, somehow the insight here for us is that somehow the setting up of activities to provide authentic learning takes a lot of planning in part of the YESO advisor. That's why they must give assistance and upskilling opportunities to them. So for us, external stakeholders of public high schools and elementary school, we are encouraged to help YESO in public school to develop more student leaders. With that, here are the references, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Del Carmen, for that very interesting presentation. So are there questions for Mr. Mark Del Carmen regarding that presentation about ESO? Anyone? So if you're a bit shy, you can use the chat box, or you can raise your hand so that we can address those bubbling questions inside your heads at the moment. So for those students, you might have some questions. All right. So I actually have one directly messaged question. Among the thematic areas presented, civics literacy emerged as the strongest among the students. How can this better inform how YESO programs are tailored to address the other themes?
Thank you
So
so
I think
much. Ah,
uh,
so the ESO in whole have several prescribed activities, but oftentimes it's about it's about the specific implementation conducted on a school to school basis. So maybe the civics literacy is high on that school, meaning that they are able to tackle and expand the level of understanding of their students, not only in the level of the existing environmental issues in their immediate community, but they are able to extend it further on the in a global issues or national issues that we have. So I think somehow the YESO advisors and the school can really try to target on how to address and develop all these components to really ensure a good level of environmental citizenship to their students.
thank you. So there's another question. It's interesting that there are also events such as haiku and storytelling events, which lean into the social sciences and humanities. Are these intentional in how they are interdisciplinary?
Yes, that's very intentional. Yes, or is oftentimes attached to the science department in public schools, but somehow limiting the students with the science concepts somehow limits their growth. That's why it's really intentional to develop other values. That's why there's a lot of integration. It was really effective somehow to do authentic activities which involve the community. That's why I think that's a part of the conclusion that the focus should be really trying to develop authentic opportunities for these student leaders.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Mark. Are there other questions? There. I have another one. So, hypothetically speaking, if there are those who don't believe that climate change, etc., is a real thing, what of those participants? What do you think can be a way to convince them?
Okay. So it just mentioned it shared one activity in the ESO of the school is the Siyensya Balagtasan. So you know that Balagtasan in the Philippines is having two sides with a facilitator in the middle. And I think one of the topic was a climate change, in which two members of the Balagtasan shows different aspects on our perspective on this issue. I think it's important that we not only teach what's the correct ways or a correct perspective on different issues, but also show the alternative issues. That's why to allow students be able to correct or see the common mistakes or misconceptions that they have.
All right. Thank you for that. Are there other additional questions? All right. I guess that's it for Mr. Del Carmen. So thank you very much for those responses. So let's proceed
Thank
now
you.
to our third presentation. So the paper is entitled Service Learning as a Pedagogy for Sustainability in Higher Education Institutions, which will be presented by Mr. Mark Joseph B. Cancino, Department of Educational Leadership and Management of Ateneo de Manila University. Take it away, sir. You have 10 minutes for the presentation and then 5 minutes for the question and answer.
Thank you, Ms. Gabriel. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Cancino again, and today I'll present to you my study on service learning as a pedagogy for sustainability in higher education institutions. As we all know, we're experiencing ecological, social, economic crisis, right? And the United Nations aims to address that through the Sustainable Development Goals. And it's already 2024. We're just a few years away from the 2030 agenda. And the higher education institutions are mandated to support that initiative. However, higher education institutions face this challenge because they usually focus on research and teaching alone, leaving public service behind. And public service component includes making sure that we support the sustainable development goals that we have. One of the priority areas of our SDG would be the education for sustainable development. So the goal of this is to make sure that there's action orientation and innovation when it comes to teaching sustainable development in educational institutions. And the goal of ESD, or Education for Sustainable Development, is to deviate from traditional practices because current courses are taught as very theoretical, right? So how do we make sure that we go beyond the theory aspect of the concepts discussed in classroom settings? And according to studies, one of the major methodologies and pedagogy that we can use in supporting that is service learning. So service learning offers a dynamic view compared to the content-heavy or very theoretical pedagogy that we have. And service learning, according to Villase, Molinero et al., inherently has a high potential in translating SDG into practice. Hence, service learning, or SL, is a viable educational framework in learning for sustainability. I just wanted to get the insights of our audience here. Have you experienced or have you been in a class that offers service learning, either as a professor or a student? Can you just briefly raise your hand if you have? So we have some people here who have experienced this pedagogy. So the challenge that we have now is that some universities might be using service learning. However, there's no clear definition of what SL is. It stemmed from years ago, decades ago, when SL was first introduced. However, now, defining the nature of SL is complex. And the lack of service learning course experience for both the students and the professors appear to have led to reduced perceptions of what SL really is. This study aims to address that gap educationally to ensure that we have a common understanding of what SL is. And at the end of the presentation, I'll give you some tips on how you can implement service learning in your own universities and courses. So for the methodology, it is a scoping review from the following search databases. We have EBSCO, Science Direct, and Google Scholar. And the keywords used were the following. So it wasn't limited to sustainable development, but sustainability in general. For the inclusion criteria, the studies included were peer-reviewed from reputable journals. They should have English text. And the study should have implemented actual service learning programs in undergraduate courses in higher education institutions. And for the time frame, the ones included were published from 2020. This is because UNESCO first published Education for Sustainable Development, a roadmap in that year also. And based on their researches, it garnered an initial result of 704. However, removing papers from Cable's list, deleting direct duplication, and ensuring that all are from reputable journals, we're only left with 20 final articles for this study. And those 20 final articles served as the cases for this study. So how do we embed service learning for sustainability in higher education institutions? First one, we should have an educational paradigm shift. You don't have to just implement it. You need to have the mindset first that you're talking about not just theory but practice. How can the university directly contribute to societal challenges that we have outside the academia? Second one would be structural changes when it comes to the curriculum. Service learning should be embedded in the curriculum, and professors and scholars should be encouraged to use it in their own courses. Third one, they should have internal collaboration from the offices inside the university and with communities outside the university. And last one, we have to make sure that universities have a policy specific to service learning to ensure that everyone implementing service learning is aligned on the processes and on the pedagogy in general. So how do we engage active participation among stakeholders? There are four major stakeholders identified. We have the coordinator. This might be from the office, another office in the university, the teacher, the student, and the community. According to Castro et al. 2020, service learning program requires more effort from teachers and students. Hence, it should be important for all the stakeholders to be actively engaged throughout the process. So how do we engage them? First one is to make sure that there's reciprocal relationship. As we all know, service learning is used as a framework in different universities. So the mindset was this is for the students to learn more about the realities outside the university. However, we should also consider that service learning is for the community also to make sure that we're supporting them in addressing their societal needs. Second one, there has to be collaborative relationships among the different stakeholders mentioned earlier. Third one, there should be a sense of respect and value. We shouldn't think that because we are the ones from the university that we know more about the community, because definitely the community knows a lot about their community. So it's very important that we value their insights. We consider their insights in crafting service learning for them. By the way, I forgot, just for everyone's knowledge, service learning is you discuss theories in the classroom and you ask students to implement a solution that will address a problem in the society. And the last one is to make sure that the roles and responsibilities are clear among all the stakeholders. So how do you engage the students specifically? There are universities across Asia, Europe, and America. In this study, only one actually required students to take a service learning course. So it's a requirement for students to pass. However, the other case studies here made sure that it was voluntary. So there's pro and con. First one is if you make it compulsory, it has a higher scope. More students will be able to expose to service learning. On the other hand, for voluntary, if students volunteered for it, then there's an assumption that there's more commitment and higher involvement among them. For the team compositions among those 20 studies, it ranges from 2 to 6. The average range is 4. The team, usually service learning is based on team members. No study mentioned that there's one student doing a project for a community. It's usually a group project. Usually, you can group together students based on different majors, based on different levels, and making sure that every team member has a clear role. So now on to the meat of the study. How do we design impactful and meaningful service learning for sustainability programs? So if you're interested in implementing this in the future, these are the best practices among the study survey. First one is to make sure that you're clear on what competencies you want to develop. So these are just some of the competencies developed across the different courses, across different countries. To summarize it, if you look at this table, it still links to the competencies identified by Week et al. So there are 5: systems thinking, anticipatory, normative, strategic, and interpersonal. Next one is to make sure that everyone has a good foundation of
Left.
what, thank you for that, of what service learning is. So making sure that they know about design thinking, lean methodology, etc. And then everyone should also know, integrate this in their course, whatever course that is, discuss what service learning is, discuss what sustainability is, have an overview of the research process, and discuss team management and project management to better equip students in implementing projects. Make sure to also contextualize service learning. Some studies would say that it's better to contextualize it in their own community so that they know their context. However, some people would say that maybe implement it in other contexts so that you can relate local solutions to other settings. So it really depends on your design of the program. We also have problematization. So for needs assessment, students may resort to surveys, interviews, observations, but the best one is immersion if your university can do that. And just make sure that you consider the time of all the stakeholders, the demands are clear from them, and analyze whether it's better to do it online or in person. Make sure that learning is also individualized. So identify the cognitive and intellectual development, not only that, the emotional development also, because some students tend to have high affective connection with the community that it's difficult for them to detach to the community after the project. Make sure that there's also collaboration. Some studies recommended for students to participate in team building activities. Make sure that there's also reflection before, during, and after the service learning program. So how we can do that? Through reflective journals, diaries, papers, and even group and class discussions where students can share their insights, not only insights cognitively, but effectively also their emotions. Lastly, make sure that you evaluate it. Here are just some ways of how current universities evaluate their service learning. And I want to emphasize what Hernandez Barco said, that evaluation should be coupled by celebration because it's considered as the best means to end a project. To end this, I'm not just promoting service learning, but I want to share with you critique of service learning also. Societal, there's a tendency that instead of empowering communities, we're disempowering them because we're doing the solution for them. So the goal is to actively partner with them in code or co-develop the solution with them. There's also problem institutionally because some higher education institutions are inflexible when it comes to integrating service learning. And then lastly, students may question its impact because usually courses just offer it in one semester. Can you really see the impact in just one semester? Lastly, how do you ensure the sustainability of service learning programs? Make sure that there's evaluation tool on the impact of the service learning program to the community, not only to the student satisfaction or the course outcomes. And lastly, there are limited there's limited time, so you can't really see the impact of service learning because it's just one semester. So the challenge really is how do we ensure that service learning for sustainability is sustainable for all stakeholders? And to summarize it, if you want to design a service learning programs, here's a checklist of the best practices of the current universities implementing service learning programs. That's all. Thank you everyone for listening.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Cancino, for that presentation. Very wonderful presentation. All right, so we only have 3 minutes left for the Q&A. So are there questions for Mr. Mark Cancino? Do you have questions? Actually, it was a very interesting discussion because I'm also teaching sustainability, well, environmental management for sustainability. And I was going to ask about because of the time constraints of a semester, right? And sustainability is very multifaceted, and you have a very limited time, and then you have to do service learning with a community. So it might be difficult. So what would be the best practices that you can share with us, since nobody has asked a question yet?
Yeah. Thanks for that. It is actually just one part of the study. I did another study to interview teachers implementing it. So the best practice to address it is to make sure that there's an office in the university communicating with the community so that it's no longer the responsibility of the students and the professors to do that. Second one also is to have horizontal integration, meaning three courses in Ateneo, for example, in order for it to be considered as a service learning course, it should be matched with a major course and an NSTP program so that the investment of the students across those three courses are measured in just one project, which is the service learning course. And third one is to make sure that you're really intentional and remind the students that we cannot solve the big problems. It's just for one semester. So what you can do is to have a feasible project that will have an immediate result for the community.
All right. So there's another question from Miss Aleli Sevilla. Can you give a specific project or activity implemented in the city?
One of the challenges is the mental health concern in cities, especially in urban cities, because there's a higher case after the pandemic in urban cities. So what they did was to the students designed an educational program. It's like a mental health 101 shared to the community members. And there's also one in relation to mental health. They designed a storybook for kids to read, exposing them to what mental health is and how they can better take care of themselves mentally and emotionally.
Which specific city is that?
Sorry, I can't remember the specific city. I think it's in Europe and also the case in the Philippines also for the second part of the study.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, are there other questions so that we can proceed? Okay. All right, no more. So, thank you again, Mr. Cancino, for those responses and for that wonderful presentation. So let's proceed to our next presentation. It's entitled Promoting Ecological Education Movements Towards Sustainable Civil Society in Primary Schools, Indonesia. So let's welcome from the Faculty of School of Marxism, Department of Environment and Social Development, University of Chang'an, Ms. Susie Andriani Simanjuntak.
Perfect.
Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly.
Yeah, that's correct indeed.
Thank you.
Can you share, may I share my own slide, if I may?
Yes, please. It's enabled.
How? Can you see my PPT right now?
Yes. It's already
Okay, thank you for having me. I am a corresponding author, Susi Andriani Simajuntak, Department of Environment and Social Development, Faculty of School of Marxism, international doctoral students, University of Chang'an, Xi'an Shanxi Province, China. And the title of my, the title of my presentation, that is Promoting Ecological Education Movement Toward a Sustainable Civil Society in Primary Schools, Indonesia. The outlines that I'm going to share, first, introduction, science education in Indonesia context, methodology, discussions, and results, implication and suggestions, and also conclusions. Okay, the introductions. I am the first order as a school volunteer. So to be a school volunteers, I have three big resources. First, that I am working in a nonprofit organizations. I am a science educators, graduated from Master of Educations in Taiwan. And then I am witnesses of environmental issue in the local community due to the lack of environmental literacy, lack of environmental actions, and non-green habits. What is the environmental educations or science education in Indonesia has highlighted significant development in four areas. First, that increasing educational attainment and accessibility to resources, improving students' achievement, strengthening teacher preparations and professional development, and expanding educational research and collaboration effort. And in elementary school or primary schools, science is taught as an integrated subject with natural and social science, MOE Indonesia 2024. So this is the analytical framework of this study to be community volunteers to schools. The volunteers or the people who wants to be volunteers need to understand, need to understand that the nature is limited, and then we as a human has a potential power to manage ethically and fairly, and then each of us have the individual forms of capitals, then we will be able, or we have hard to work in environmental education movement in schools, and then influence the young students to be a civil society sustainably. And here, what are the limited natures? First is the limit to the amounts of energy resources available, limit to the amount of pollutions, limit to the amount of food we could produce, limit to the amount of natural resources for human use. And we as a human have a power to manage ethically and fairly through local government, national government, international government, individually, group, organizations, region, tribe, and culture, career, and interest. And we can see some of what we have done collectively, they are Sustainable Development Goals, or SDG, Ministry of Environment, Environment Law, Environmental Science, Education, Protection, and so forth. So those are the collective agreements that we have done to manage ethically and fairly our environments. And the forms of the capital based on the Fuller-Thorne 2015, there are eight there are 8 types of wealth and prosperity that can be shared to make life worth living, especially to the young students, such as we can share intellectual, we can share our experiential, spiritual, social, material, financial, ecological, and cultural. And here I adopted 3 best learning approach for environmental movements. First is problem-based learning, activist-based learning, art-based learning. And from this teaching approach, hopefully the students can be a sustainable young civil society to protect the limited natures and to works on environment ethically and fairly in society. And then the methodology I use here is participatory approach actions research case study to solve practical problems in the community. There were only 8 formal schools out of 10 schools had been visited. And here the permissions from the MOA in my country. And then the result and the discussions. Here, the first problem-based learning approach that I share to the students, to the primary schools. There are 4 subtopics: air protections, land protections, water protections, and food protection. And each of the subjects, I try to share the problems. First, such as for the air protections, we have a problem with the car idling, motorbike idling, truck idling, factory waste, and then I share the causes such as the irritations, hard to breach lung raise and cancer, and then the students draw the issue and the causes, and after that, after they finish their drawing, they share their voices to stop using idling, motorbike, car, truck, stop burning waste, stop factory with a bad air pollutions, in order we all the students, including the students, breathe fresh and air cleaned. And then here are some of the teaching documentations. Here the students share their concerns to protect the air protections from the transportations, factories, and burn waste, sorry. And then the land protections, the students learn that the environmental bad habits, including throwing rubbish randomly and then burning waste, such as snack package, cup plastic, and then burn solid waste like plastic materials. Here, the students have do demonstrations and analyze how land polluted with the waste randomly, and then the others students also do demonstration and analyze how burning waste polluted air in atmosphere. So we have a small experiments. As we can see from the documentations, the students see when the soil is polluted by the plastics, and then when the soil is when the waste burning, it will directly or indirectly will pollute the land, and it will harm the animals below the land. So the students ask or encourage the friends or
You see 2 minutes left.
oh, thank you.
Kindly wrap up. Thank you.
To 3R, reduce, reuse, and recycle. And then the problem-based learning approach from water protections also, I try to introduce old sea and current sea that fish live with plastic waste for the current sea, but the old sea mostly fish are happy with no plastic waste in the oceans. And then the students learn the plastic form and the existence after a year, 10 years, 30 years, 6 years of the form of the plastic. And then the students do a role play. Unconsciously, they consume contaminated fish with plastic. So here are the examples of the documentations, some of the pictures. Yeah, and then food protection as well. I try to share the GMO food dangerous, and then how we can promote green plant at school and house yard, green plant a coconut tree, for example, or magic herbal plants. So the students here participate to plan their food in their backyard or even in their schoolyard. So this is some of the documentations. And then activist-based learning approach. Here there are 3 phases: scientific learning, scientific citizenship, and scientific and political citizenship. So first the student have knowledge and
wrap up. Sorry.
oh,
Can you
okay,
wrap up the presentation? Thank you.
fine. Due to the limited time, so here are I try to skip some of them. And this is the art of based learning that the students also learn multiple intelligence adopted by from Howard Gardner. They learned bodily, they learned body kinesthetically, musical rhythm, interpersonal, visual, spatial, verbal, linguistic, logical, mathematical, interpersonal, intrapersonal, and naturally. So it's kind of like a hands activity. So you it might influence their intelligence holistically. And implication and suggestions of this study that local community volunteers are the witness of the environmental crisis at the first place. Local community volunteers know what the wealth and the efficiency of a social and natural resources stimuliously, and then local community volunteers are powerful to help science learning for local students. Local community volunteers are sustainable people to help local students to take care the environment perpetually and or continuously. Local community volunteers share ecology's responsibility due to the sense of belonging, and then local community volunteers bring more people to connect because local community volunteers are an effective bridge to connect people in school and local governments for sustainable environment. What about the schools? The schools are supposed to be the the educational institution perform greater in which people are in actions in the community life to unite for the public welfare. In such manner, school can be the part of body to contribute and supervise respectively. It achieves its functions more productively and growing the intentions of human capital for environmental protections. And And for the suggestions is, the study suggests to integrate approach, natural and social science, personal experiences, and public discourse through a transformations of scientific and education system, and then also the support from the institutions to recognize the volunteers' actions in the institutional structure, and participations need to be embedded in the education system from school to university and beyond in cultural institutions, and the funding supports for this in order to diverse populations to bring the volunteers to the schools, the community to the schools to teach or to share their form of capitals to the students. So the conclusions is promoting environmental volunteers is very welcome for ecological movement at educational institutions. It helps to integrate educations and local community holistically. And the local volunteer can be any actors, any disciplines, or multidisciplinary application fields, any career, any institutions, any age, any interest, any organizations to fight for sustainable environment. They can share positive and progressive intellectual, as I have mentioned before, the forms of capitals of the individuals, and then the first order. I share my intellectual experience and social resources to empower the young students learn ecological literacy. And from this best learning approach, the students are able to develop skills such as critical thinking, collaborations, communication, creative thinking, and be green citizenship to take care of the limited nature and mind their behaviors to not pollute the environment in their community. And with support from the local community, volunteers, school, and every stakeholders and funding can grow intensity of a human capital for environmental protection. So that is the end of my presentation. Here are some references, and thank you very much. 谢谢大家. Sorry, I take the times a lot.
Thank you so much, Miss Susie. So are there questions? Since we're running out of a bit of time, would it be okay if some of the questions that they have can be directly sent to you? Can you share your email address so that they could ask questions?
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So we will just have a short break, a 3-minute break, so that you can go to the restroom or just freshen up or drink water. So we will be back at around 3:21. All right. Okay. And we'll proceed to the Instagram Reels competition and the other presentations. Thank you. Again, we'll be back by 3:21. Okay, Miss Susie, you can put your email address on the chat box so that for the questions, they can just directly email you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks. All right. So it's 3:21 and hopefully you were able to have your break. So we will proceed with the Instagram Reels competition. Isa, can you play the video?
Hey, what's up? Where are we? Where are we? We are at Rifle Range Nature Park in Singapore. Formerly a mining site, it has since been rewilded and is now part of a network of ecological corridors to connect wildlife, habitats, and people. It is also one of the few remaining places in the world where you can hear the beautiful birdsong of the straw-headed bulbul. Rifle Range is a conservation project that has immense value to Singapore residents as a place to unwind, relax, and exercise like I'm supposed to be doing now. Who are you? Who am I? My name is Joshua, and I am co-president of the Young Urbanists of Southeast Asia. Now, let me ask you a question, okay? Imagine your city rewilded. What would that look like? A design project, science-based policies, community programs in education. How would that make a better future for us, for our flora and fauna friends, and for the planet? In partnership with the ASEAN University Network on Ecological Education and Culture, or AUN-EEC, we are proud to launch the hashtag Rewilding the City Instagram Reels contest. In 1 minute, tell us how your city could look like rewilded. Be creative with how you tell your story. Live drawing, photo montage, animation, even a song and dance routine, as long as it's original content. Tag UC and AUN-EEC in your post and use these hashtags to qualify. What's that on your collar? Oh, this microphone? I don't know, I just wear it, like, totally not staged. Haha.
All right. So there's the Instagram Reels competition. So if you're interested, just go for it. And then we have our next presentation. It's entitled The City as the Classroom, the case of Stardom Young Advocacy at Silliman University, Philippines. Let's welcome from the Office of Community Engagement and Service Learning, Silliman University, Mr. Giovanni T. Macahid.
Good afternoon, everyone. Allow me to share my slides. Okay, so this presentation is about the city as the classroom, the case of Stardom Young Advocacy at Silliman University. So welcome to Dumaguete City. This is the city of gentle people and also the university called University City. It houses four big universities, one of which is Silliman University, as the oldest, founded in 1901. And there's a big university also, which is a state university. The Start M Young or advocacy is the community engagement component of the Civic Welfare Training Service of the National Service Training Program, which is a requirement for all first-year students. And this program has since been from 2018 to the present. It was envisioned to be a culminating community engagement and experiential learning activity of the CWTS. The CWTS cadets gather as a group to design and plan for their activities for the said advocacy. Their efforts are focused on two goals. One is to translate the knowledge gained from the lectures and workshops into creative learning activities for daycare children. And second is to implement impact projects based on the specific needs of daycare centers. The cadets group together and engage with daycare children by translating knowledge on environmental stewardship, solid waste management, disaster risk reduction and management into a fun and creative learning activities for daycare children. The goal is for daycare children as early as 3 to 4 years old to develop an understanding, awareness, and appreciation of taking care of the environment, learn proper waste segregation, proper hygiene, and gain basic knowledge about how to respond during calamities and disasters. Learning extends beyond the classroom, potentially occurring anywhere and beyond closed spaces like a school. Hassing noted that people can receive and understand information during their lives in cities and urban environments. So what was the result of the experience of our CWTS cadets? We follow the framework of Kolb's experiential learning, wherein learning involves a cycle which includes creating concrete experience, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, and active experimentation. At this stage in concrete experience, learners engage in activity or tasks. Cole posited that the key to learning at this stage is involvement, while the key to acquiring knowledge is the student's active engagement in the task or activity. So this experience highlighted the development and appreciation of the value of teamwork and group actions among CWTS cadets, as demonstrated by one cadet's reflection. One of the most significant lessons I gained from my participation is the importance of teamwork. Engaging in group activities and fieldwork highlighted the essential role that teamwork plays in achieving common goals and achieve active objectives. Working collaboratively with my group mates made tasks more manageable, efficient, and enjoyable. It taught me the value of cooperation, communication, and mutual support in accomplishing shared tasks effectively. Reflective observation engages students to continuously reflect on the lessons they have learned while trying to connect with their past experiences. CWTS cadets reflected on their self-discovery and personal growth through their experiences. They discovered specific passions and interests, such as mentoring, teaching daycare children. So they later on learned that, hey, I love to teach children, along with their acquired skills like patience, and communication. One of the CWTS cadets said that I realized that I possess a strong inclination towards nurturing and educating younger generations. I discovered a passion for mentoring and guiding children. Another key reflection is the development of a more in-depth understanding of community and social responsibility. The cadets' experiences led them to reconsider the prior understanding of community and collective action with the community. They confronted issues such as working with children, handling uncertainties, and adapting to changes in their activities or tasks within the program. In the abstract conceptualization, the cadets begin to make sense of their experiences. They synthesize and integrate previous knowledge, concepts, and theories with new learning experiences, creating new theories that will explain observations. Cadets gain a deeper awareness of the ongoing social and economic challenges in the communities. The cadets observe firsthand the challenges that affect learning in daycare centers and early childhood education in the country and other underlying social issues. One cadet would reflect, my understanding of the community evolved significantly. I came to see the various socio-economic challenges that affect children's education and development. This deeper awareness of community issues has made me more empathetic, and motivated to contribute to positive change. In an active experimentation, learners apply their existing knowledge to new experiences or situations. They analyze and make plans on how to use the knowledge in the future. The insight from the thematic analysis highlighted CWTS cadets committed to continued community engagement, extending their involvement in volunteerism and community service beyond their immediate experience. One cadet would express that I can continue to apply these lessons by staying engaged in community service activities and advocating for educational programs. Volunteering in local schools, participating in community cleanups, and promoting environmental sustainability are ways I plan to extend the impact of my CWTS experience. After the experience, CWTS cadets actively expressed their commitment to future actions. They pledged to respond to social realities they encountered. This outcome fits perfectly with Teneja et al., who state that experiential learning enables learners to apply their new knowledge to real-world settings that are relevant to their daily lives, thereby ensuring that new knowledge remains until the future. The evidence of learning experiences of CWTS cadet is built on the relationship as learners engage with institutions like the university, the local governments, the daycare centers, that reinforces their current and future learning. However, we we see that the results do not explicitly establish how a city as a learning environment contribute to this study. What was established is that students learn through experiences in the communities through specific aspects of the city as a learning environment. So the limitation presents an opportunity for further studies that shall explore the aspects of or factors within cities that influence students' learning. Moving forward, and there's a need for an evaluation for enhance the program sustainability while highlighting COB's experiential learning framework. There is a need to replicate the program to other communities or daycare centers and conduct further research on how communities contribute to the students' EL, which highlight EL as a multi-actor interrelations framework. Lastly, let me just share to you this um, word from reflection from our cadet. I will continue to engage in lifelong learning, seeking out opportunities to deepen my understanding of environmental sustainability, disaster risk reduction, and public health. I will actively participate in community engagements, efforts, advocating for policies and practices that promote sustainability, resilience, and public health at local, national, and global levels. There is really hope for the young. And we take our hands. So this is Eric. I hope you can visit our place. And thank you very much. Daghang salamat.
Thank you so much, Mr. Makahig, for that very on time. Actually, we're on time. So do we have questions from our participants? So we have experiential learning now from service learning earlier. So are there questions from our participants from SL to EL? Are there questions? So it's actually interesting how the program helped not just the children, but also the CWTS cadets, right?
Yes, it's true. It
So,
actually encouraged them to, to engage in an advocacy later on after they graduate the CWTS program. Some of them ended as leaders in the student government, and also
wow.
some of them, some of our alumni also uh, have founded their own organizations.
Wow.
So that's inspiring.
It's a good ground for them for leadership actually. There are born
Yeah.
student leaders from this CWTS advocacy programs. I actually took LPS when I was doing my undergrad. Experiential learning is really helpful. So are there questions? So I actually got one. Since the program works with children or minors, was there any permitting that had to happen? How was the program evaluated beforehand?
Oh, well, we have to coordinate very closely with DSWT, who is in charge of the city, DSWT, who is in charge of the daycare centers in the city. So we arrange for 20 because our cadets can only accommodate for 20 daycare centers around the city. And there are letters that we send to the barangay, to the city for proper permission and proper coordination. And daycare teachers also inform the parents because this is a Saturday. This is not a work. This is not a regular Monday to Friday class of the children. So it's a special day for them, but it created interest in them.
Nice. That's very nice. So
Yes.
there's a question. Ma'am, is it correct to say SL or service learning can only be implemented once students have gained enough theoretical knowledge or learning about a subject matter before putting it into actual real life problem practice? Actually, this is for the other one, the service learning, because this presentation is for experiential learning. Okay. I'll just forward it with to the other presenter so that he could answer. Are there questions for experiential learning, specifically for this one, with the Start and Young Advocacy at Silliman University? None? Okay, Daniel.
Yes. Hi, sir. So my name is
Hi.
Daniel from the AUN-EEC Secretariat. My question is actually very specific to the disaster response and the disaster literacy aspect of the program because I also work in disaster literacy. What were some of the concepts that the kids in the program had an easy time understanding, and what were some of the concepts that they had a more difficult time understanding?
Okay. So in the implementation of the disaster risk, we do not really go into the, we into the more theoretical and detailed, but we want it to be more fun. So it's, and also we limit it to the most basic, like if there is an earthquake or there is a fire. So the children are trained by our cadets or taught by our cadets how to duck, cover, and hold. These are some basic experiences and what to do when there's a fire and that one. So it's incorporated in a more fun activity. Yes.
Thank you very much, sir.
That,
Thank you so much, sir. Are there other questions? No more? All right. Thank you again, Mr. Giovanni. Oh, there's a question. How old are the CWTS cadets from Miss Aleli Sevilla?
Okay, so our CWTS cadets are first year students. So they are graduate of senior high, about 18 years old already.
Mm.
Because this is required by law. So they have to engage in NSTP. And we would like it to make it more meaningful for them and to train them to become future leaders and also very engaged with the community because that's what CWTS is all about. And since Siliman University is a forefront in environmental protection, so we'd like to highlight also that experience for them.
All right. Are there other questions? Okay, it seems that we have none. So thank you again, Mr. Makahig, for your presentation and for your responses to the questions. All right, so let's proceed to our next presentation. So we already have 5 out of 9 presentations. So this is the 6th one. It's entitled Behavioral Constructs of Place-Based Learning and Conservation a Thematic Analysis. So let's welcome from College of Arts, Sciences, and Education, University of Perpetual Help System, Delta Molino, Mr. Donis B. Bendicio.
Hello, good afternoon. Allow me to present my presentation.
Hey, sir, can you increase your volume for the microphone?
Can you hear me po?
Yes, though it's a bit
Okay.
soft. I can't hear that much.
Okay, for a while. And how about this one po?
It's still a bit the volume is a bit low. So we have 10 minutes for the presentation and then 5 minutes for the question and answers.
Okay po. How about this one po?
There, so much better. Thank you.
Okay. So again, good afternoon to our dear participants. No, so for the background po, I am a psychology major. So I just very interested with this kind of projects and practical application of the theories, of course, no, with regards to the environmental setting. Okay, so with this one, no, I'll be discussing the behavioral constructs using the thematic analysis. Okay. So for the background, I outlined the main key points, no, in line with the SDGs. Okay. So number one is the psychological well-being pertaining to the um, rewilding, no, in line with mental health, of course, to reduce the stress level, anxiety, and depressive symptoms, according to some literature. So they have some implications to mental health, no, especially with the uh, implementation of this kind of projects. Okay, so we also have behavioral engagement, no, and this has some implication with safety, resilience, and of course with the sustainability, as mentioned by some presentations in the previous ones. Of course, with community cohesion, no, the community has that kind of opportunity to engage with projects. Of course, with the educational opportunities, how the instructors or professors or teachers can create engaging activities as presented in our previous presentation from our presenters in the field of education. Of course, the sustainability of conservation efforts. Okay, so for the criteria, I included the literature to be in the Philippine context or in ASEAN. So if none, I also check some literature from foreign literature. So academic setting, it has to be in the academia or institutions or in the practice, no, where it can be implemented as case studies. Okay, behavioral constructs. So studies should be examining some behavioral constructs or attitudes, motivations, and behaviors directly related or can be place-based learning conservation. So for the research, it must be specific conservation efforts, rewilding projects or urban sustainability practices. For the methodologies, we have the both quantitative and qualitative methodologies. And of course, they should be peer-reviewed journals or articles, thesis or dissertation published within 10 years. So here's the method that I use, the thematic analysis from familiarization, generating initial codes, uh, generating the themes, reviewing the themes, and then defining and naming the theme, and then producing and then reporting it. So with these, I was able to generate the behavioral constructs for the three main themes. So number one theme is the emotional and cognitive connections. Number two is the social community-based engagement and hands-on practical learning experiences. So these themes are likely derived from the read and rereading of these articles and then analyzing how these constructs or behavioral constructs or projects are likely in line with these themes. So using Google Scholar, for example, the search queries are as follows. Okay. So the description of these three themes are as follows. So number one, on emotional and cognitive connections to urban nature, it is composed of the real-world learning environment, cultural exposure, while the social and community-based engagement, it is composed of the engagement with community, promoting active citizenship, interdisciplinary learning, and lastly, the hands-on practical learning experiences composed of exploration of urban dynamics, environmental and sustainability education, and experiential learning. For the theme number 1, are offering a living laboratory where students can engage with real-world issues, so deepening their cognitive connections to the urban environment. On cultural exposure, it is composed of the access to museums, galleries, and cultural sites, builds emotional and cognitive connections to the city's heritage and diversity. So that is for the theme number 1, emotional and cognitive connections to the place. For the theme number 2, social and community-based engagement, it is composed of three aspects: the engagement with community, on how students can engage with diverse communities, building empathy, social awareness, and civic responsibility through direct interaction. Also, with the promoting active citizenship, students are likely encouraged to think critically about promoting policies, planning, promoting social responsibility, and active community involvement. And the last one is the interdisciplinary learning on how students can engage with urban spaces, allowing them to engage with multiple disciplines through community interaction, just like this one, enhancing social learning and interdisciplinary understanding. And the last theme is on the hands-on practical learning experiences. So it is composed of three aspects. Number 1 is the exploration of urban dynamics, environmental and sustainability education, and then experiential learning on how students can engage with cities, providing opportunities for hands-on activities like urban gardening, public participation, making learning immersive, and directly connected to live experiences. All right. So for the recommendations and implications, now that we were able to achieve these themes, no? So here are the recommendations. So number 1 is on urban learning into curricula. So the educational setting, for example, or institutions in the field of education are encouraged to incorporate urban learning experiences into their curricula. So let's say, for example, uh, me in the field of psychology, no, maybe we can uh, provide, or I can provide this kind of uh, design for the curriculum or the outcomes-based education, where students can explore how the community or the school setting can have this kind of wild 2 minutes na ba? Okay. So for that, we also have equitable access, no, interdisciplinary collaboration, such as communication with the organizations, no, non-government organizations, partnering with private sector, the local businesses, and also with urban planning and environmental agencies. So for the concrete uh, projects, no, I may not be able to share with you, but I'm very glad to be part of this afternoon session. Okay. So with that, the conclusion, a collaborative effort among educational institutions, local governments, community organizations, and the private sector, and urban planning agencies is essential to effectively integrate urban learning into curricula and enhance educational opportunities focused on real-world urban challenges. So here are the references. Maraming salamat po.
All right. Thank you for that presentation, Mr. Bendicio. So are there questions from our participants? So feel free to use the chat box to type in your questions or clarifications or even comments. All right. Okay, so I have one. Earlier, Dr. Maxine Mo shared about out of classroom activities. Do you think classes should be moving more towards this kind of immersive learning? What do you think about striking a balance between learning in and out of the classroom?
Yeah. So one of the challenges that most instructors are facing right now is to, get the attention of the students as well as, engage them with certain activities. So I think it is evolving, no? The way instructions are presented to school or in the school setting on how students can be engaged with this kind of community extension programs, no, and how they can be assessed by the instructors, no. So gone are the days that there is one way traffic for that learning from the instructor to from book to instructor and then passing to the student. So now we are looking forward to integrate this kind of activities on how you know uh, outside the school are being integrated to the curricula. So I think, yeah, it should be part of the curriculum and instructions among the practitioners in the field of education.
Thank you so much for that. Are there other questions or comments? Okay, since I also wanted to ask something. Um, is there would it be possible to like have a policy paper that could be, you know, sent to like DepEd and SHED so that this will be incorporated to the curriculum, or even smaller, like with the LGU, because especially they have the local school board, maybe this would be encouraged in at a smaller level first.
Yeah. So likely, no, uh, every before implementing the semestral period, no, there are some practices where students, teachers, and administrators, for example, in our school, no, they are engaged into crafting the instructional materials, no, so they are engaged on how we can provide instructions, no, we can provide activities for the students. So live, no, yung feedback ng students during the time of the meeting. So the teachers are there, the students are there, the administrators are there. So the stakeholders are available on that particular meeting to create this kind of policies or interventions, no, or instructions for the classroom setting. So it will lead, no, towards the bigger activities, maybe in the city level, no, or in the government level. So it should start, yeah, that's true, it should start in the level of school setting muna.
All right. So thank you so much for that, Mr. Bendicio. So are there other questions or comments? Okay, none. All right. Thank you again for that presentation and for your responses to the questions, Mr. Bendicio. So let's now proceed to our next one, which has a title. This paper is titled "Who's Reporting What They Saw, Where, and When? Identifying Reporting Bias in University-Based Citizen Science Biodiversity Monitoring Program." So let's welcome from the Department of Environmental Science, School of Science and Engineering, Ateneo de Manila University, Ms. Abigail Marie Faves.
Afternoon, may I have permission to share my screen?
Yes po, ma'am.
All right, good afternoon. So we are Trinket Constantino, and with me is Abby Favis of the Ateneo Wild, and we're here to share with you what we found out when we looked at the observations of our citizen science biodiversity monitoring program on campus. So just to provide you with context of who we are and where we are, the Ateneo de Manila University is found in Quezon City in Metro Manila, the largest city. And the campus is one of the last remaining green corridors in the city. So we are continuous with other green spaces, universities and colleges, Miriam College, the University of the Philippines at Diliman, and also other residential areas and a water service provider. Our campus is only 86 hectares, but only around 40% of it is built up space, which means that there are a lot of green spaces that the community can interact with. But unfortunately, appreciation for these green spaces and for their ecological and spiritual benefits is not maximized. And so we started the Ateneo Wild because we wanted to share our nature experiences with others. We are a citizen science program. We started in 2018, and since then, we have been working to build a campus biodiversity inventory, which we hope can influence university policy and management of green spaces. We want to show the presence and importance of urban biodiversity to the community, and we want to encourage the community's contact with nature by spending time outside. So we use social media as our main platform for communication. We are at the Ateneo Wild on Facebook and Instagram. For our campus inventory, our approach is citizen science, and we want to involve the community in the scientific endeavor, in this case, in data collection. So this approach has been shown to have positive and measurable effects on biodiversity and communities. It promotes science literacy, nature education, and contact with nature, which are our goals. So our advocacy is really to share with the members of the community that cities don't have to be ecological monstrosities, and that you can find nature and interact with nature even if you live in the city. So urban spaces, we all know, are the nature spaces are very important in keeping the city livable, healthy, and beautiful. So what we highlight really is that if we want to make our campus a haven for local wildlife, we need to prioritize native plant species and, of course, highlight native organisms. In doing so, we hope to contribute to achieving goals such as the Laudato Si goals and, of course, the SDGs. When we started out, we wanted to share with the community through photos the various wildlife on campus. But since then, we have extended the invitation to the community members to participate in the biodiversity inventory. So on this page are the various photos that have been contributed by the Ateneo Wild Citizen Scientists, where they show in documentation of their observations and so also share information. So what we do is that we encourage community members to submit reports, and they do so usually by messaging the Ateneo Wild through direct messaging on our social media pages or through emailing us directly. When we receive the reports, we encourage them to we request them to send documentation along with information about their observations, on where and when their observation was made and any other circumstances surrounding their observations, and they send it through email. Once we receive the report, we add the information to a biodiversity inventory, and we also log their submission and information to a contributors database. So most of the submissions we are able to feature on the social media pages. We have hashtag Wednesday Share and hashtag Sunday Share. And we're happy to also share with you that most of our most popular posts with the highest engagements are actually these contributions from the community. So to share with you what we have learned, here is Abby.
Okay, thank you, Trinket. So Trinket already mentioned that the Ateneo Wild started in 2018, but the data we are presenting today only covers the period of July 1, 2022 to July 31, 2024 to capture the moment when on-site operations of the campus resumed post-pandemic. So looking at the profile of our citizen scientists, most of them are students, and these are students from the higher education. And this is not surprising because majority of our social media followers are of that age group. We're also happy to see that employees are well represented, whether these are employees that are non-teaching, teaching, or employees that belong to institutions or offices that do not directly fall under the umbrella of the university, but hold office here on campus. We're also happy to receive reports from Jesuits and seminarians, and also from alumni and a very small percentage of parents and visitors that come to the campus. So what's not represented in this data are, of course, younger students from the basic education. And this presents an opportunity to think of activities that can include them in the data gathering process, and of course, in experiencing campus nature spaces. When we look at the data of what is being reported, most of the organisms reported are insects, followed by birds, reptiles, plants, and fungi. So insects are, of course, obviously very abundant compared to other taxa, and they are also easy subjects to document. We're also happy to see birds, reptiles, and amphibians that are also popular subjects for these contributions because they are charismatic organisms that capture the imagination of the students, but are perhaps more challenging to document, especially with mobile phone cameras. So plants seem like the easiest organisms to document, but they only comprise about 7% of total reports. And most of these reports are of temporal features like flowers or fruits. So that also provides an opportunity to maybe encourage more plant reporting. But of the data, when we look at the overall data, it also begs the question, are animals more exciting subjects for our citizen scientists? So the answer looks to be yes. So we also broke the data down to see where the reports are coming from or where the observations are being made. And it was a bit challenging to disaggregate the data based on locations on campus. So what we did was we based the segregation of areas on campus on our campus emergency management protocols. So these are some of the area, we collated all of these areas on campus based on similar features and similar population. So most of the reports come from, of course, the higher education area. So that's about 58%. But we're also happy to see that the residential areas, so these are residence 1 and residence 2, which have more vegetation cover and are less busy than the campus core, is also represented at about 25% of reports. Most of the reports that come from these areas are from Jesuits, seminarians, and
left, Miss Abby.
farmers. Yes?
2 minutes left.
Okay, we're almost done. Basic education areas are, again, underrepresented despite their large population, and areas, again, more opportunities to involve them in data collection. But we're also happy to receive reports from other campuses beyond Loyola Heights, such as the Salcedo and Ortigas campus. So when do they report? So this is just a summary of the monthly reports that we've received from 2022 to 2024. So the fewest reports obviously come from months where there are also fewer students on campus. And these are the months that correspond to our breaks like Christmas and the intersession breaks. And on average, we receive about 22 submissions per month. We also look at the time of day from which the reports come from. And out of the 260 reports, only 3 are nocturnal or were taken in the evening. And these are those 3 reports, which present an opportunity to encourage more nighttime observations, especially for those who already live on campus anyway. And we'd also like to note, and this is very interesting to us, that beyond species reports, our citizen scientists can also capture other threats or other issues related to biodiversity, like human and wildlife conflict, like this unfortunate snake that was killed out of misplaced fear, animals being released, or predation from cats, window strike events, and the presence of invasive species like this New Guinea flatworm. So there, that's exciting cat stalking the rock dog. Okay. So in summary, Between July 1, 2022 and July 31, 2024, we received a total of 260 reports, and this is very valuable information to add to the growing biodiversity inventory that's maintained by the Ateneo Wild. The reports also capture biodiversity threats that provide data that can be used for evidence-based policymaking or management strategies that can be used for campus biodiversity. And more importantly, the inventory also provides local examples that can be used in teaching. Then this maximizes the educational value of such data and the role of the campus as a living laboratory. Almost all campus stakeholders are represented except the very young children in the basic ed. So again, opportunities to work with educators in those units to include more of them in our data gathering endeavors. And finally, plants are underreported despite their ubiquitous distribution and biodiversity, and this emphasizes the phenomenon of plant blindness. So more activities that can focus on plants is also suggested. So all in all, looking at the data allows us to understand our citizen scientists better and to identify biases in who is reporting, what are they reporting, from when are they reporting, and where. And that helps us look at strategies to improve our reporting mechanisms, our participation, and of course, the data that we are collecting from campus. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Miss Abby and Miss Trinket. Sorry, I wasn't able to acknowledge Miss Trinket because I didn't know that she was here. Anyway, thank you so much for that very wonderful presentation. We have some comments and questions on our chat box. So, Miss, wait. Miss Janina said, our project is very much inspired by the Ateneo Wild. Actually, as I was going to say that it's related to the next presentation. She also has a question. Are most of the reporters also from the higher ed locations, or could it be because the area is larger based on the map?
Yes, so thank you for the question, Nina. Yes, most of the reporters come from higher ed locations. I think almost half of our reports come from higher ed. It is possible that it's because the area is larger, but also because these are the areas that are more frequented or the foot traffic is very high. So the probability that a report will come from there is also very high. So we need to look at how else we can encourage more reports from the campus, especially in the lesser built areas where we expect more wildlife to occur.
All right. Thank you, Miss Abby. And another question from Miss Dawn Satumbaga. Will you be posting or publishing this data summary somewhere, hoping to cite or use them for classes?
Yes, we're actually finalizing, or we're cleaning up our inventory. We maintain an inventory of representative taxa. So we have an inventory of birds, of native trees, and of Lepidoptera. So we're just thinking of how best to make this available to the community, but we want it to be used also. So this is definitely something that we will do as well. And thank you also, Don and Nina, for being citizen scientists for the Ateneo Wild.
Hey. All right, I'm actually a fan of Ateneo Wild.
Thank you.
I've been mentioning it in my classes before. Anyways, there's another question. Most organisms reported are insects, birds, and reptiles. Have you tried to deliberately post more photos of other types of organisms to encourage more reporting, or this does not have an effect on citizen science contributions?
That's an interesting idea. We have not investigated that, but we'll definitely look into it. But what we try to do in our, whenever we post, is have an even distributions. I don't know if you notice on our feed, it's not always birds or it's not always insects. We also like to feature plants because we want the community to appreciate, especially our native plants, more. But what we notice also is our plant engagements are also low. So most of the popular posts are really animals rather than plants, except for, let's say, when the post gets shared among plant enthusiast groups also, and then we see a spike in the engagement for that post.
Yeah, there's a comment from the chat box. I noticed that from Miss Annika Laude, I noticed that Ateneo Wild does focus a lot on mushrooms when it comes to immobile organisms. Perhaps they're more interesting. And,
Well, they
uh,
are certainly very interesting to us, no. But I don't know if you look at a wider sample of our posts, the fungi kasi are seasonal. So it's not that we always, or it's not that we have a large posting of fungi. It's just sometimes it might seem that way because rainy season is when they start popping up, and that's it. We always want to feature things that are in season or things that the community can visit and see for themselves. So we try to time it also with phenomenology of sorry, a phenology of nature. So we also want to see the campus as an almanac of different seasons, and we try to feature or match the organisms to the season.
all right. We are so sorry, but we have very limited time. But there are a lot of questions. Would it be okay if if we will forward it to you and you can directly answer
Sure.
them?
Yeah, of
All
course.
right.
We'll respond na lang to the questions in the chat later on. Yeah.
All right. Because there's also an anonymous question. We'll just
Sure,
I'll
just
just go.
send it to us. Yeah.
All right. Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
Miss
Thank
Abby.
you.
Okay. So let's proceed to our next presentation. This is our 8th out of the 9 presentations. It's titled Designing Participatory Exhibitions, a Case Study Using Bird Window Collisions. Let's welcome from the Bird Window Strike PH and Department of Science Communication, University of Otago, Ms. Janina Carla Castro.
Hi, can I have access to share? Ayun, I got it. Thank you. Cool. Can I be heard clearly?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Cool. Perfect. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Janina Castro, the co-research lead of Bird Window Strike PH and a science communication student from the University of Otago in Dunedin, New Zealand. I'm here to talk more about the exhibition that we designed that talks about bird window collisions, but that also integrated different participatory elements into it. So before I start, I want to acknowledge the funding support that we received from the Oriental Bird Club and the AEC Limited, part of the Auricon Group. I also want to have a special shout out to our research assistants, Ezzy Ramos, Timmy Romero, and Kovi Angeles, who honestly really supported the exhibition, and I don't know how we would have pulled it off without them. I also want to acknowledge all the citizen science reporters who helped carry our project. And I also honestly don't know how we would be able to run this project without them either. So thank you to all of these people for your support. So just to introduce the concept, a bird window collision or bird window strike is basically what happens when a bird hits glass thinking it's their natural habitat. This might sound a bit trivial, but in the United States, millions of birds die from window collisions every single year. Unfortunately, we don't quite yet know the full extent of this issue in Southeast Asia, but there are studies finally popping up from Taiwan and Singapore, and also now here in the Philippines. So back in 2021, I and my ornithologist friend, Jelaine Gan, we decided to set up a citizen science project to further understand the issue of bird window collisions happening in the Philippines. So we set up Bird Window Strike PH and started receiving reports of window collisions from all over the country. We also used our Facebook page as a platform to talk about this issue and also receive these reports. However, over the last few years, our role has changed somewhat. We're now also advocating for what we call window collision prevention solutions. So these are anything that you can put on the outside of the glass to break up the reflection, help birds see that it's a physical barrier, not something that they can fly through. So one good example is the grid of stickers that this one reporter put on his window. And this really helped reduce the number of collisions, or actually completely eliminated the number of collisions that are happening in his home. So unfortunately, we've had this difficulty of encouraging stakeholders to install these preventions on their windows, and we're now currently exploring the different behavior barriers that would help us know why people don't want to do this. This aligns very nicely with some of the more recent research about window collisions, which highlight the need to integrate conservation, social science to better understand our stakeholders. One thing that we've also been wanting to do is really expand our communication platform, and we've had this really secret dream of setting up a physical exhibit that talks about window collisions. When we were conceptualizing this exhibit, we noticed that museum exhibits are evolving to be a lot more participatory, and so we sort of wanted to integrate that into this exhibit. So a participatory exhibit is something that allows visitors to contribute their own insights to the information being presented. So the objectives of this exhibition is really mainly to explore the different participatory elements that we can integrate in an exhibition that introduces the concept of bird window collisions. For us, this was very important because this meant two things. One is that we finally get to expand our communication efforts beyond the online space. And second is that we get to collect insights or collect community insights about bird window collisions and prevention solutions. When we were designing the exhibit, we wanted it to have a central message just to streamline the kinds of information that we wanted to present to people. And we wanted it to be that bird window strikes are a problem and we can be part of the solution. So the central message really encompasses what we've been doing for the last few years and really just sort of gets to capture the overarching theme of what we want to talk about. So this central message was broken down into 3 sub-messages, which I didn't include here because they're a bit long. But we use this to really streamline the kinds of information that we were presenting to people. So the exhibition was run from February 6 to 16 earlier this year at the University of the Philippines Institute of Biology lobby. The exhibition integrated didactic elements that introduced the concept of bird window collisions and shared what we've learned in the last 3 years of running the project. So this was mainly things like why collisions happen, where they happen, what species are involved, and how these species have been affected in terms of their injuries and mortality. We also, sadly, half of the reports that are sent in to us involve birds that die. Some of the carcasses of these birds are donated to us and we freeze them for future research, but we unfroze some of them and taxidermied it and then integrated the study skins as part of the displays. So for the participatory elements, we had 3. The first one were these voting drop boxes where people could vote on their preferred solution. We presented 4. So one, these were bird-shaped stickers, the grid of dots that I mentioned earlier, hanging ropes, and an external window mesh. So these 4 solutions are known to prevent collisions, and we wanted to see which ones that people preferred. We also asked people what would encourage them to install these preventions on their own windows. We gave them 4 options, but we also gave them a little notepad at the bottom where they could include any other factors that they thought were also important. So we asked if they thought more information, more affordable solutions, whether their friends or family used the solutions, or if they needed help to install these at home. For the last element, we asked people how they felt and what they learned. We asked them for 3 words that they would use to describe how they felt about the exhibition. And we asked them for their main learnings or their main takeaways from the exhibition itself. For the learnings, we framed it in 2 ways. So we asked them what their personal learning was, and we also asked one takeaway that they would like to share with their friends or family. So in order to find out what the general learnings are, we used thematic analysis to understand these. During the exhibition, we did foot traffic counts. We counted the number of visitors who stayed in front of at least one panel for at least 10 seconds and found that we had an average daily number of visitors of about 56 people, which meant we had around 500 visitors during the whole duration of the exhibit. What we did notice was that not everybody used the participatory elements or the participatory panels. Which honestly is totally okay because not everybody goes to the entire exhibition that they visit. So some people would only choose the parts that were interesting for them. What's good though is that for the people who did interact with the participatory elements, we saw that they had a strong preference for the square decals and the mesh. And when we asked them for the reasons, when we asked them for what would help them install these in their own home, they let us know that they would like more information about and better access to affordable solutions to install these in their own homes. Now, when we processed the information from the comment cards, we realized that people weren't writing down their feelings, but were really just describing the exhibition, and we're like, okay, we'll use that, and yeah. Thank you. We'll use that and we'll see what people, what some of the common themes are when they talk about this exhibition. So a lot of people really highlighted how it was very informative, how it was interesting, how the communication was done very clearly. But we also like how they mentioned other feelings like being very upset, how the topic made them feel sad or shocked or very angry. But there were also feelings that were a bit more positive, a bit more optimistic. So people said that they were hopeful, that they were enlightened, that they picked up themes like compassion or eco-sensitivity from the exhibition itself. Looking at their main learnings, we have a few. We're still in the process of doing the thematic analysis, but we noticed that some of the main learnings, 3 bullets on top, these align very nicely with the sub-messages that we wanted people to pick up. There were a few learnings, the 2 bullets at the bottom, that window collisions are a conservation concern, and that awareness and citizen science reports can help solve collisions. These weren't some of the more salient themes, some of the more salient sub-messages that we wanted people to pick up, but it was nice to see that they were picking up on these slightly more nuanced ideas. So to conclude, the exhibition was informative enough for our audience and generated strong emotions. It was a space where we could ask people and see that they had a preference for square decals and mesh, and that they wanted more information about and better access to affordable options. From their learnings, we saw that they were very aligned with our sub-messages and slightly more nuanced ideas about window collisions. Moving forward, we want to see, we'll be using these insights to inform our communication strategy and help guide how we want to talk about collision prevention and how we want to introduce any behavior interventions. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to further analyzing the comment cards using thematic analysis. We're also looking for more spaces to set up the exhibition, especially spaces with slightly different audiences. We want to see if they have any different insights that they could share with us. Lastly, we really like the potential for the comment cards. There's so many other questions like these two that we want to ask people, and like this exhibition platform is just such an exciting place for us to interact with stakeholders, and we're so excited to see where else it would go. So yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Janine. So are there questions for presentation? This is actually very interesting. I agree with one of the comments. Sad, amazed, and interested. I actually felt the same thing because I love birds. Okay, so we have one question that came in. What are some of the initial behavioral hurdles in implementing or piloting collision prevention solutions?
Right, so we're trying to identify some of those barriers. Right now, it seems like what we initially thought was it was cost and maybe lack of information about collision prevention. But so this exhibition is part of the rest of my thesis, and I've been interviewing different homeowners. And just off the bat, it seems like aesthetics is playing a very big role. So a lot of people don't like the square grid. They find it ugly, or they find it not so nice. So aesthetics is one, and I think convenience is another common one that I see coming up, not just here, but it's also in another research. So in terms of the convenience, people like their windows because they can see very clearly out of it. And so when we ask people to put something on their windows, they think it would distract them from the view, or it would distract them from what they like about their windows. And so that slight inconvenience for them is enough for them to not want to put things on their windows. So yeah.
Yeah, understandable because of the aesthetics and stuff.
Yeah. It's an interesting hurdle to figure out how we can jump over it, but it's exciting.
Yes. Thank you for that. Are there other questions? All right. So it seems that we don't have questions anymore. So let's proceed to the next one. Thank you again, Ms. Janina, for your wonderful presentation and for your answers to the questions. And then our next presentation is entitled Description of Nature in Poster Making, a Frame Storytelling. So let's welcome from the Department of Filipino and Other Languages, Mindanao State University, Marawi City, Mr. Jabber Y. Riga.
Bit lang. Oh my God. Where's my PPT? Sorry, moment lang.
All right, sir.
Hi, Mr. Riga. Would you like our tech team to share your slides instead?
Yes po, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you po, sir. Okay, so good day. So now I will present the study entitled Description of Nature in Poster Making, a Frame Storytelling. So I am Javier Yunus Riga, the presenting author of this study from Department of Filipino and Other Languages, Mindanao State University, Marawi City, Philippines. In the field of ecolinguistics, okay, next slide. In the field of ecolinguistics, the term ecological delves into the intricate relationship between language and the environment, exploring the profound impact language has an ecological process and the interconnectedness of individuals with natural world. Understanding and attributing meaning to narratives depicting natures in posters play a crucial role in shaping our attitudes and behaviors towards the environment. Through the lens of framing storytelling, researchers dissect the themes and stories portrayed in these posters and revealing their significance in both the preservation and degradation of nature. By delving into the contents of these posters, the researchers aim to expand knowledge and enhance comprehension of the narratives conveyed in each visual story. This study aims to meticulously examine and analyze the unique narratives encapsulated within each poster and demonstrate the significance of nature through creating posters that depict various aspects of the environment. It delves into the technical and artistic aspect of poster making and how it can serve as an effective medium for describing nature. Emphasis is placed on expressing issues related to nature environmental changes through visual medium like posters. So now let's proceed to the methodology of this study. Next slide. This research utilized a qualitative case study research designed to gain a deep understanding of the data collected by examining how a poster is created and the stories contained within it with a theme of nature, originating from students made posters from various departments of Mindanao State University, Marawi City. This context showcases narratives of the environment through different posters. As a qualitative case study, It is important to have a thorough understanding and analysis of the topic being discussed. The data was analyzed using framing analysis to interpret the denotative and connotative meanings of all contexts within a poster. The researchers examined and analyzed the poster images multiple times to identify common aspects of the stories depicted in each poster related to natures. So now let's proceed to the result and discussion. In this section, the presentation of the problems stated in the introduction and their corresponding solutions were discussed after gathering and analyzing the data. The researchers collected 25 posters with themes about nature from posters made by students. The simple posters have themes on the sea, trees, land, and urban area that can be seen in various posters. It also delves into two types of situations that occur in nature, the conservation and destruction of nature. Okay, next slide. As you can see on the first poster, the poster depicts a scene with a happy family picnicking, children playing by the river, a tall buildings behind the picnic area, houses in front and a river on the side, swans swimming at the river, people cleaning, and a child with a fruit basket near a sandboard are featured. The composition highlights the harmony between urban and natural elements, family bonding, outdoor recreation, environmental stewardship, and community well-being. In this essence, this poster conveys a multifaceted message about the harmonious coexistence of urban and natural landscapes, the significance of family bonding and outdoor leisure, environmental responsibility, and the virtues of health and community well-being. The visual elements work together to evoke a sense of balance, joy, and interconnectedness within the depicted scene. As you can see to the second poster, the poster showcasing two different situations. On the right side, there is a lake filled with trash such as bottles, plastics, and other non-biodegradable waste. The water in the lake is dark, indicating pollution and lack of environmental care. This situation shows disrespect for nature and irresponsible waste disposal. On the left side of the poster, we see a very clean lake with water surrounded by trees and colorful and two boats portraying a refreshing and well-maintained natural environment. This situation demonstrates care for nature and a desire to preserve environmental health. This visual may inspire people to take care of and protect nature for the present and future. Next slide. Okay, let's continue. As you can see on the third poster, the poster that depicts two situations regarding the environments and urban area. In the poster, there are two hands holding the word, with the left side showcasing the destruction of nature, where trees are destroyed and burned due to toxic emissions from a factory standing nearby. There are cut trees and the land appears dry as if dead. The brown color symbolizes the destruction of nature. On the right side, it portrays the conservation of nature. With green trees, fresh green grass, and a river, there are mountains in the background with both large and small windmills, a small house, and solar power. The blue color symbolizes the care of nature. So as you can see on the fourth poster, the poster depicting the relationship between urban areas and natural utilizes visual elements and symbolism to convey a message of balance and environmental conservation through the contrast of urban structure with natural elements like animals, trees, and greenery. The poster highlights the interconnectedness between human development and the natural world. The image of two hands hold.
2 minutes left. Thank you.
The image of two hands holding a tree with a word symbol of its leaves signifies the responsibility of humans to protect and nurture the planet, while the presence of a river symbolizes the importance of water water resources, and sustenance. Overall, the posters aims to raise awareness about the need for sustainable practices, coexistence with nature, and perseverance of biodiversity, encouraging viewers to reflect on the role in caring for environments. So let's proceed to the conclusion of this study on the next slide. So the research on ecological linguistics framing analysis of nature-themed description of a nature in poster making a frame storytelling from has revealed significant insight to the relationship between language, environment, and human behavior. Through framing analysis, the study uncovered the nuanced messages, themes, and perspectives conveyed in the posters, shedding light on the importance of environmental awareness and conservation efforts. So connecting to the results of the analysis of the theme rewilding the city, the posters exhibited a range of narratives and visual representations that underscored the coexistence and balance between urban development and nature. The framing analysis of the posters related to rewilding the city emphasized the importance of promoting sustainable practices, environmental stewardship, and community well-being. The visual and messages conveyed in the posters encourages viewers to reflect on their role in caring for the environment and inspired actions towards creating greener, more sustainable urban spaces. And that's all.
All right, thank you, Mr. Riga. So are there questions regarding his presentation? Anyone? You can use the chat box for your questions, or you may raise your hand so that we could address. Are there any questions? Okay, none. All right, it seems that we don't have any questions. So thank you so much, Mr. Riga, for your presentation on poster making and the frame of storytelling. All right, so we have learned, I hope you have learned a lot from the 9 presentations that we have. So we have learned from those presentations that cities can be pedagogical spaces, and that serve as venue for service learning, experiential learning, citizen science, critical thinking, and even venues for that give birth to future leaders and environmental stewards. So it was also highlighted during the first presentation, the second presentation. Well, sorry, the first one, the Laudate Deum, that it is just reinforcing what Laudato Si means, that we need to really be responsible for the environment that God has given to us. And before we go, can I have anyway, are there last questions or comments before we have our group picture? All right, are there any more questions? So those that have been posted on the chat box has been responded by our speakers. And then may I request everybody to open your cameras for our group photo for documentation purposes? All right. Can everybody please turn on your cameras?
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Daniel from the AUN-EEC Secretariat. So we all fit in one big frame. Maybe I'll just give a few more seconds for our other participants who are still turning on their cameras and would like to join our group photo. So I will be taking the screenshot in 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'll hand the floor back over to Miss Guevara to close our program.
All right. So again, thank you so much for participating in this parallel session. Uh, we hope that you did learn a lot from all of our presentations, and all the questions have been answered properly. And after this, we will have synthesis at the plenary with Dr. Emmanuel De Locado, the Executive Director of AUN-EEC. And we will also have our evaluations later. Okay, so let's return to the plenary.
Actually, we can play the video of Dr. De Locado here in our
Okay.
individual session.
All right. All right. Thank you.
I hope you find our conference. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you find our conference enjoyable and insightful. On behalf of the Secretariat of the conference, I would like to thank you for joining us in our fifth AUN-EEC conference on ecological education and culture. In this fifth conference, the theme was Rewilding the City. In the plenary session this morning, our moderator, Dr. Nikki Carcy Cruz, shared that the banner theme of AUN-EEC this year is urban sustainability. Earlier this year, we learned about the tensions in the city in our webinar. And these tensions are cultural preservation versus modernity, environmental protection versus economic progress. Despite these tensions, there are intentions to live sustainably in and with the city. We hope that through the keynote lectures this morning, you had some appreciation of how environment and culture can continue to thrive in the city. We thank Dr. Max Mo and Dr. Rohaya for being champions in the different but interrelated facets of urban sustainability. The panel discussion provided us a glimpse on the different champions, contexts, and challenges in mainstreaming sustainability in Southeast Asian cities. We learned some nuances of the solutions being presented, and we learned that rewilding the city is not just about greening the city. It is about building systems and structures that enable practices to contribute to building a culture of sustainability. Meanwhile, the session this afternoon catered to our personal interests. Through the four sessions, we hope you had some appreciation of the diversity of ways on how we, individuals from various fields, ranging from natural science to education, humanities to engineering, and everything in between, can contribute to rewilding our cities. Special thanks to Ms. Gabriel Ann Guevara for moderating this session, and to Ms. Isa Calderon and Ms. Sam Coronel for providing technical support for the session. As we end this conference, we hope to see you in our upcoming events. I invite everyone to participate in our Instagram Reels competition, which was launched earlier, and to our city planning workshop competition happening later this year. And to our presenting authors, you may opt to submit the full paper of your presentation so that this can be considered for publication in the special issue of CSID Journal of Infrastructure Development. CSID JID is abstracted and indexed in the OAJ, Crossref, Garuda, WorldCat, Cinta, and Scilit. You may submit your papers until the end of September. The Secretariat will also send you an email on this after the conference. And lastly, before we end, I would like to request you to evaluate the conference by clicking the link on the chat or by scanning the QR code that will be flashed shortly. Thank you for joining us again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
All right. So thank you, Dr. Delocado for that conference synthesis. So as mentioned, the evaluation link will be posted. It will be flashed on the screen. So kindly fill it up and then there. So the link is bit.ly/AUN-EEC 2024 Confe-evals. All right. So kindly accomplish the evaluation form found at the link that's flashed on your screens. All right. I hope everybody can see the link. All right. Okay. So again, we would like to thank everyone who have participated, the presenters and all the participants who have shared their time with us. And we hope that this has been a good value for your time. And we hope to see you all in the near future. And we hope that you had a great session. God bless you all. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks to the tech team.
Once again, thank you very much, everyone. We will now be removing some of you from the call now. Thank you very much and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you and take care.